All right, guys, let's pick this week's games. It's just me today, standing here in my backyard. Bennett's not able to pick with me, so let's pick games. I'm going to pick some college games and then some Premier League games. Let's get into it. All right, here we go. I'm recording this on Friday afternoon. So tonight's games we have Louisville and Miami. I think it'll be a pretty easy win for Miami. Louisville hasn't looked very good, and Miami is, you heard in my last video, very good. They're my number one team in the country. I think Miami rolls. Easy win, Miami Hurricane. Next up, Nebraska at Minnesota. As much as I'd like to pick Minnesota, I think that Nebraska is just going to be able to pull it out. I think it'll be a fairly close game, but give me Nebraska by a little less than a touchdown. Now it's time to pick our SEC games this week. Some crazy matchups. For the first time ever, all 16 teams have conference games this week. It's kind of wild. But first off, we have LSU at Vanderbilt up in Nashville. So this is the first time, I think, in 50 years, I don't know, that Vanderbilt has been favored against a ranked opponent. It's crazy. So Vanderbilt's coming in. They've a little disappointing week. A couple weeks ago, they play LSU, who's kind of still trying to find an identity on offense. It's going to be a close game. This was a really hard one to pick. I think Vanderbilt gets to an early lead. I just don't think they're going to be able to hold on. Give me tradition. I just think LSU is going to prove that they're LSU and Vanderbilt is still Vanderbilt. Give me LSU in a close one. Oklahoma at South Carolina. Again, Oklahoma, they have nothing going on at quarterback with Mateer hurt. Over in South Carolina, who's hasn't looked as good as this year as you'd hope they would. So you have Oklahoma's favored in this game, which is kind of strange to me. I think it should be the other way around. Give me the Gamecocks. Probably win by a touchdown or so, yeah. And then the gross game of the week. Ole Miss at Georgia. I mentioned I just don't know what to do with Kirby Smart. But yeah, Georgia should have lost last week. Probably should have lost the week before. But Ole Miss hasn't played anybody. The gross game of the week. Give me the home team, I guess. Give me Georgia by field goal. Yeah, let's go with it. Georgia by field goal. All right, here it is. Mississippi State at Florida. What are we doing? Mississippi State's down in Gainesville for the first time in 14 years. A lot has happened since then. Dan Mullen went down there and refused to pass the ball. Florida missed a field goal in the last seconds. Mississippi State with a huge win at Dan Mullen's homecoming. Not the same two teams. You have a Florida team who the rumor mill is abound. Billy Napier is being questioned. They haven't looked great. Mississippi State hopefully getting a few key players back. I think Albert Reese might play. Fingers crossed. That makes a huge difference for Mississippi State. And then Isaac Smith hopefully be back in the secondary. I think if Albert Reese is back, I think Mississippi State can pull off the upset down in Gainesville. I just don't have confidence that he's going to be able to play. I think the offensive line is just going to struggle to give Blake Shapen some time to pass the ball. It's one of those things I just cannot pick against my Bulldogs, but winning down in Gainesville, Mississippi State has not won a conference game in 2 years. I'll be happy either way, but for my picks, unfortunately, give me Florida. Yeah. And then Texas A&M at Arkansas. Garbage game. Texas A&M big. Arkansas, no. Even if it's at Arkansas, Texas A&M still wins by a couple of touchdowns. Texas at Kentucky. So you have a Texas team who comes off a huge win of the Red River Rivalry. I just was so unimpressed by Oklahoma, which I mentioned earlier. But Texas, maybe Arch Manning's found something. Maybe they'll give the backup a chance. But I just don't see Kentucky offering much. I think Mark Stoops, he's had a good run at Kentucky. Hopefully he can stay and get them back on their winning path. This would be a good way to do it, but I just don't see it. Give me Texas. Then the third Saturday in October, we have the traditional rivalry, Tennessee at Alabama. That's right, the Vols and the Crimson Tide. What a big matchup. Alabama's looked so good this year after the Florida State loss. They've really got their act together. And Tennessee, I think, has kind of held serve. They've looked about like you would expect. Maybe not quite as good on defense as you thought they would be coming into the year. But going down there in Tuscaloosa, being here in Alabama, you realize the Crimson Tide fans are really, really wanting this one. I think that it's going to be a rowdy atmosphere, and it is a night game. Yeah, it's 6:30, so it's going to be wild and crazy. Yeah, give me Alabama. Alabama over Tennessee. And then Missouri at Auburn. Missouri had a heartbreaking loss against Alabama last week. Auburn, heartbreaking loss against Georgia last week. Two teams still really not going in the same direction. Auburn's still trying to figure things out at quarterback with Jackson Arnold. And, Missouri, their running game is so strong. But the question is, can it travel? Can Missouri travel down to Auburn and get a win at night at Jordan-Hare? The fans are right on the edge of their seats. They're really wanting things to happen, something big to happen. I think Missouri's going to come in and try to establish the run. I just think Auburn's defense is going to be what wins them this game. Give me Auburn, probably have a pick six or a scoop and score to pull it out in the fourth quarter. Auburn barely over Missouri and Jordan-Hare. All right, let's move on to some other games around the country. We'll look at a few. Baylor at TCU, great game. I'm a huge fan of TCU's quarterback, though, and with that game being at home, I think TCU is going to pull it out fairly easily over Baylor. Baylor, former Mississippi State quarterback. So, but yeah, give me TCU. Georgia Tech at Duke. If you listen to my top 15, you know how I think about Georgia Tech. I love Georgia Tech. Doesn't help that hometown boy over there coaching them up. Duke really struggled the last few years. I don't see him able to slow Georgia Tech down. Give me Georgia Tech fairly easily over Duke. Michigan State at Indiana. Yeah, the only reason I'm picking this one is because my neighbor plays up at Michigan State. But unfortunately, Amari Kelly's not going to be able to be enough of an offense to stick with Indiana. It's an Indiana home game. I have them ranked third. It's going to be fairly easy, unfortunately. Maybe Amari can have a touchdown catch and maybe return a punt for a touchdown, but give me Indiana fairly easily over Michigan State. Dan Mullen, UNLV at Boise. What a huge game for Dan, man. I feel so good for him. It's nice being able to cheer for somebody on the other side of the country. Oh, but they're at Boise State on the blue turf. It's going to be a huge challenge, and are they up for it? I think Dan Mullen's got something up his sleeve. He's going to have some tricks, not do something that's not expected. Dan Mullen, UNLV, goes up to Boise and gets the win to stay undefeated. Probably move into the top 25, maybe move into my top 15. We'll see. But give me UNLV over Boise. Moving on, we have Texas Tech at Arizona State. What a huge game this is, too. Arizona State, up and down. They've looked good. They've looked shaky. I was a little wrong in my Texas Tech evaluation in my top 15. I said they were hype. This is their chance to prove me wrong. They have already beaten Utah, which I messed up that score. So they've looked good this year. So they're going over there to Arizona State in Sun Devil Stadium. Yeah, give me Texas Tech, and they're going to be on the rise. They might just jump a few teams in the top 15 next week. Give me Texas Tech. USC at Notre Dame. This is a huge game for USC. I think they might be able to sneak into the college football playoff with a win. Notre Dame, They have looked up and down. I said they're on my all hype in my top 15. My guesses are it's at South Bend. I still think they falter. Their hype shows. They're not going to be hyped anymore. USC goes out to South Bend, gets the big W, moves up the rankings, moves into my top 15, and is sneaking into playoff contention. So yeah, give me USC over Notre Dame. Here it is, Utah at BYU. I talked up Utah in my last video. I talked up BYU in my last video. Something's got to give. This is a huge game over there in Utah and Provo. It's going to be tough. This one could really go either way. I think these fans really don't like each other. It is going to be kind of as crazy as it can get at Provo. I think it will. So yeah, give me BYU in a close one over Utah. Last game we're going to talk about, and the only reason I want to talk about this one is just how ridiculous it is. We have Florida State and the ACC traveling to the Pacific Coast to play Stanford. They've got to do something with these conferences. Maybe that's something we'll talk about on Monday. We'll see how this game goes. But yeah, give me Stanford. Florida State's not looked good, so give me Stanford. So yeah, so that wraps up our college football picks. And now, guess what? I'm going to pick some Premier League soccer games. So those of you that don't care, see ya. Maybe we'll pick up some new viewers. All right, let's do it. Premier League soccer. I know I've got a few people that might enjoy this content, so we'll pick some games. I'm going to start off in the morning. We have Nottingham Forest, Chelsea. Chelsea has really been a surprise this year. They've really done good in the transfer portal. I think Nottingham Forest I'm just hasn't been as impressed this year. I think they're going to struggle. They might do decent coming off the international break. They have some players rested and things like that. But as the season goes along, Nottingham Forest, I think, is going to really start to falter. Chelsea, they look strong. So, yeah, give me Chelsea probably 2-1 over Nottingham Forest. Brighton Hove Albion, Newcastle. Yeah, Newcastle lost their best player, Isak, to those guys up in Liverpool. So I don't see them being able to handle Brighton this year. I think Brighton will probably come around and beat them. Probably a 1-0 victory to Brighton. Maybe a 1-1 draw, but yeah, we'll say 1-0. Burnley Leeds. Whew, the battle of the bottom, let me tell you. So Burnley Leeds. It's at Burnley, so we have two teams that are coming up from relegation. It's probably slightly edges the home team. But Leeds, you know, they have Brennan Aronson. I'm going to be cheering for Leeds in this one. I really, really like Burnley too because of the dude perfect connection. Probably a 1-1 draw. Let's give a draw, unfortunately, to Burnley and Leeds. Crystal Palace, Bournemouth. Crystal Palace at home. Bournemouth is Bournemouth. They're probably a mid-tier team. So, yeah, Crystal Palace should be a little better. So, yeah, let's go 2-1 Crystal Palace. In my game, Man City, Everton. Yeah, Jack Grealish over there at Everton, unfortunately for Everton, will not be able to play in this match. So I think that makes all the difference. Everton are going to be looking for somebody to move forward. I just don't think that Billings is going to be able to handle it on the wing like Jack Grealish could. I think Man City, Erling Haaland is looking fabulous. He had so many goals over international break. And in the international goals this year, he's looked really good in the Premier League as well. I think fairly fair to say that Erling Haaland's going to score. Hopefully we'll get Kovacic back in the middle to kind of settle things down there with Rodri being injury prone. But yeah, give me a fairly easy win. It's going to be tough. Everton's going to sit back and make us work for it, but Man City with probably a 3-1 win over Everton. Sunderland, Wolves. Wolves really struggling. Sunderland, they're kind of the favorite team. We'll give a close one to Sunderland, 1-0. Fulham, Arsenal. So yeah, got a lot of Arsenal fans that are family and friends. I think they'll be able to pretty much handle Fulham over there in London. So yeah, Everton fairly easy, probably like 2-0 win over Fulham. And then Tottenham Hotspur and Aston Villa. This is a good game. I think Aston Villa has really got some key pieces there, but Tottenham, again, they're one of those teams that made a lot of work over transfer portal. I think they've made some good gets. Maybe let a few people go that they should have kept, but overall, I think Tottenham's just a better club right now. So give me Tottenham over Aston Villa, say 2-1. Yeah, sounds about right. And all right, here we go. Another one of those games. We have Liverpool, Manchester United, the ugly game of the week. Who cares who wins this game? I'm going to go a 0-0 draw for Liverpool, Man U. It's going to be ugly. Who cares? 0-0 draw. Nobody wins. And then we have West Ham, Brentford. Give me West Ham. I love the Hammers. Hammers are probably my second favorite team in the Premier League. I like their work ethic. I really like their midfield. So yeah, give me West Ham 2-1 over Brentford. So that does it. That wraps up my Premier League picks. Who was surprised about that? So that wraps up this week's picks on Friday afternoon. Who do you agree with? Who do you disagree with? Leave me some comments down below to let me know who you think is going to win the weekend. I think there's some big games in the SEC, some big games across the pond, but who do you think is going to win? Who do you think is going to lose? Let me know in the comments.